Now, to further discuss these latest developments, we have with us Dr. Bong Young-shik from the Yonsei Institute for North Korean Studies. It's great to have you back with us again, Professor.
Pleased to be here.
Now, Monday's high-level talks between the two Koreas will be the fourth time this year. But it's the first time that actually North Korea is the one who initiated it. They're the ones who proposed it to South Korea. What do you make of that fact?
Well, the table has been turned. Previously, in the third high-level government-to-government meetings, as you said, that it was South Korean government who took the initiatives to realize the high-level talks with North Korea. But this time, North Korea took the initiative to make it happen. And the purpose of this high-level government top-level talk looks like preparation for the third Inter-Korean Summit meeting between Chairman Kim Jong-un and the South Korean President Moon Jae-in. That signifies how desperate North Korea is under the continuous pressure of economic sanctions in place and the lack of progress on the front of the easing the tension on the Korean Peninsula, including the official declaration of the end of the Korean War by all related parties, including the United States. So it is another attempt by North Korean authority to have South Korean government interposed between itself and the United States to realize very urgent strategic goals for North Korea.
You talk about North Korea's desperation about wanting these talks. Were you surprised by the fact that North Korea did initiate and that they're showing this sign of desperation?
Well, two interpretations can be made. One is the very positive and optimistic interpretation that, as illustrated very clearly in his New Year's message to the nation on the first day of 2018, Chairman Kim Jong-un declared that this year would be the groundbreaking year for improvement of inter-Korean relations and North Korea becoming strong and prosperous. So from that interpretations, it only makes sense for Kim Jong-un authority to take a lot of aggressive initiatives to advance its strategic goals. On the negative side, another interpretation is that because North Korean authority has been increasingly aware of the immediate danger of regime crisis because of mounting pressure of economic sanctions and diplomatic isolation, it is very desperate to get any daylight to get out of the current crisis, and the best hope for North Korean authority remains the Moon Jae-in government of South Korea. A good example is the unannounced and abruptly held summit meeting, the second summit meeting between Mr. Kim Jong-un and the South Korean President Moon Jae-in in May, when there was a kind of a lot of twists and turns prior to the actual realization of the US-DPRK summit meeting in Singapore in June.
When they met in secret like that in May, it did seem to help. At that point as well, there was difficulties between North Korea and the US to arrange their own summit. But it seemed that meeting with Moon Jae-in did help move the process along a bit. Do you think that same kind of breakthrough can happen now?
Same kind of breakthrough can happen now. I have to wait and see. I may sound like President Donald Trump. Let's wait and see. But my concern is that South Korea's capability to be an objective and trusted mediator or balancer or facilitator, however you name it, has been greatly diminished in the aftermath of the scandals of illegal importation of allegedly the coal produced in North Korea. In order for South Korea to be the reliable facilitator or mediator between North Korea and the United States, South Korea needs to maintain credibility. Here it has to earn the trust not only from one side, but also definitely from both Washington and Pyongyang. But it seems like North Korea has begun to question the capability and the objectivity of the Moon Jae-in government as an initiator or the facilitator between North Korea and the United States. considering that North Korea has elevated the tones and levels of criticism toward the Moon Jae-in government for its decision not to immediately resume the operation of the Kaesong Industrial Complex or the tour program in the Mountain Kumgang, or speeding up the project to reconnect the railroad systems of both Koreas. But at the same time, the United States seems to increasingly cast doubt on the credibility of the Moon Jae-in government as an objective mediator or the reliable supporter for international sanctions on North Korea for North Korea's proliferation behavior, as illustrated by this coal importation scandals. So without credibility assured by both North Korea and the United States, Moon Jae-in government in the upcoming summit meeting with North Korean leadership for the third time cannot really provide any creative ideas or substantial incentives for North Korea to speed up its process of denuclearization, and whatever suggestions Moon Jae-in government may want to broker or propose to North Korea, it has a big homework to persuade the United States and earn the trust of the Trump administration.
Sure. Just earlier today, on Friday, the South Korean government admitted that they released a statement saying that they found after an investigation that 3 South Korean firms have been trading illegally with North Korean coal and iron ore, motivated by financial reasons, i.e. because it was cheap. Now, this is problematic for Korea because, they are potentially violating United Nations sanctions. But how seriously do you think the US would take this,
It's very serious because South Korean government may just shift the brunt of the blames and responsibility to the 3 companies motivated by profit making. But as a former national security advisor in the Lee Myung-bak administration, a former ambassador and South Korean representative to the 6-party talks, Mr. Chun Young-woo writes in his column to Donghwa Daily News that coals, just like human fingerprints, have unique qualities. So it is very easy for the exporters and the buyers to tell where the coal actually was produced and exported from. So it is a rather facile excuse for the South Korean government that, or the companies who actually bought the coals, that they did not have the full information. Because it was quite, it's not so difficult to tell that it is highly possible that the coal must have been exported by North Korea illegally.
If it was cheap, there must have been a reason why it was cheap.
Right. So the companies took the risk, although there's a good chance that they might have known that it was illegal in violation of the UN Security Council resolution 2371, paragraph 8, which stipulates that DPRK shall not supply, sell, or transfer directly or indirectly to coal. And all member states shall prohibit themselves from actually purchase those materials, including coal. So it was a clear violation of the UN Security Council Resolution 2371. And although South Korean government may defend itself that it did not know, it was just the companies motivated by profits, but still, United States cannot really rely on the South Korean government rigorously and fully supporting and implementing its own measures in support for the existing economic sanctions.
Credibility damaged, it seems. One of the other major topics that if the two leaders do meet, President Moon Jae-in and Kim Jong-un, one of the main agendas could be the agreeing on how to go ahead with declaring the end of the Korean War. Now, that's an issue that North Korea has really been pushing for in the last few weeks. But the US have said that we're not going to agree to it unless there's a full denuclearization. What do you think those two can agree on here at this point?
Well, they can play some games of rhetorics to actually reiterate their joint agreement. stipulated in the Panmunjom Declaration on April 27th. So in effect, both leaders may confirm their joint effort and the common hope to put a formal end to the Korean War, but without endorsement and support by the United States. It cannot be a complete and binding joint declaration. So without having the United States on board, whatever rhetorical agreements can be signed by both leaders of Korea this time, its effect will not be quite lasting. The effect will be quite limited, because as iterated by National Security Advisor in the White House, Mr. John Bolton, that denuclearization of North Korea must be the absolutely top priority, and it is not time for North Korea to continuously play rhetorics, but take concrete actions. So without change of such a very hardened attitude of the United States, then South Korea's elbow room to maneuver will remain quite limited.
The US State Department revealed on Thursday that they're almost in daily contact with North Korea, and then they added via phone, email, and messages. I mean, first, is that possible? And two, would you have expected that to be the case?
Well, it must be possible as a result of the Singapore summit meeting between President Trump and Chairman Kim Jong-un. They agreed to maintain reliable and frequent communication channels between the two governments, so that doesn't surprise me. But more important thing is what kind of a content of the message has been delivered from Washington to Pyongyang. If the message from Washington is like demanding North Korea to show very concrete roadmap of denuclearization. One news media of the United States reported that U.S. government demanded Kim Jong-un regime of North Korea to get rid of at least 60 to 70% of the all nuclear warheads it has produced and maintained before the end of this year. Then if the communications between Pyongyang and Washington is to reiterate this demand, then there is no reason for Pyongyang to welcome this communication, although the communication may keep happening.
We'll have to see. One more thing before we quickly go. On September 9th, North Korea celebrates its anniversary, the 70th anniversary of the foundation of its republic. Now, reports have emerged that a military parade is being readied. In the past, these kinds of parades have been a chance for North Korea to show off its nuclear weapons and its nuclear military hardware. But reports say right now it doesn't look like intercontinental ballistic missile launchers are getting readied for it. But do you think it will be different this time? Do you think, it's still a month away, so a lot can happen in a month. But do you think North Korea will not do anything provocative here?
Well, it's up to the strategic decision of the top leadership in North Korea. But if North Korean military is going to show a new type of or more advanced version of the intercontinental ballistic missile, it'll be equivalent to shooting itself at its feet, because that new ICBM must be on the list of the items that has to be dismantled as a part of the agreement, the Singapore summit meeting. So why do you want to undermine your strategic leverage upon the United States by showing off your most advanced weapons in celebration of the 70th anniversary of the National Foundation? So I think it'll be more likely to be rather subdued, but just a reasonable level of the demonstration of armed forces of North Korea.
Perhaps a bit more boring than we're used to for a North Korean military parade.
That's good, boring.
Well, thank you for coming in today and sharing your thoughts with us.
You're welcome.